Alright, good afternoon everyone. I'm Krell's the King, StanStrength.com. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing the Dr. Swole Upper Lower program. So Dr. Swole, I think his real name is Billy Wong. Or Dr. Billy Wong, let me put some respect on that shit, because it's hard to get that title. But when it comes to doctors, right, and especially doctors who will talk about fitness, you're always going to run into the issue of let's say, the charlatan, and can happen with even uneducated people, which is very probably more common. But you get the people like Dr. Mike Israetel, clearly know what they talk about, clearly know what they're talking about, and then very experienced with whatever it is that they're discussing. But on the other side, you also get these guys like Dr. Fung, who, yes, they are doctors, yes, they are educated, but are speaking complete bullshit. And that's kind of the extremes of doctors when it comes to fitness related concepts and content. And I would be inclined to say that Dr. Swole actually lands closer to the good side of things. You know, I think he has recently been included in the process of reviewing information for MASS, the monthly application of strength sport, which is ran by Eric Helms and other smart lifters who do actual scientific research when it comes to this thing. So when it comes to being completely science-based, he has one of the highest levels of education while also being a science-based lifter. And when it comes to actual programming, this is a overall good thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be perfect and it's always going to be the best thing because it comes from someone who has a doctor in their name. And that is not a slight or um, a jab at him. It's more so just something that needs to be addressed. Just because they have a official title, it doesn't necessarily mean that whatever they say is gospel and whatever they say is law. Everything should be questioned. Everything that I say should be questioned. And I hope that everything that I say will be explained well enough in my review of this program. But anyway, let's actually get into the program. So part of the reason why I wanted to select this program is, for one, the upper lower split is near and dear to my heart. When it comes to my method, my preference for power building, for for progressing into getting a lot better at the squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, but also at the same time building a wide base of muscle mass. The upper lower split is near and dear to my heart as being one of the best splits to do that on. Reason being, the upper lower split allows you to train concurrently, meaning you're able to train two adaptations or two goals at the same time. When you have an upper lower split, you can divide it into strength days, a strength upper day, a strength lower day, and then a size day, which will help potentiate the strength gains that you will get on the strength day, which is why I like the upper lower split. Another reason why I like the upper lower split is because it limits you to keeping the practice of certain movements to about 2 times a week at most. And usually what I find for most people is that you can definitely do higher frequency training for a longer amount of time if you kind of cap it out at 2 times a week. If you were to do bench press 3 times a week, there's other modifications that you would have to be making in order to accommodate that amount of frequency. But when it comes to doing a 2 times a week and you're training them in 2 different ways, I find that to be a lot easier to recover from than higher frequency training. I know that there's other programs out there, and you might find videos from other sources where they discuss their plan to build their squat, build their deadlift, build their bench, and they will say something like, I'm going to bench 4 times a week, I'm going to deadlift 3-4 times a week. And with an upper lower split, because you're trying to develop size and strength concurrently, at least that's how I think the upper lower split is best done, you kind of drop back on that frequency, you drop back from that risk of injury, you drop back from that risk of overuse. So there's a lot of pluses to the upper lower program. So we're going to be looking at his program here right now to see how I feel about how he has it set up. So we're going to start with his upper one workout, the first workout of the week, and it starts out with bench press, 6 sets of 5 to 8. Now, 6 sets of 5 to 8 isn't really I guess unheard of, but it is very high volume, and my issue with it is the fact that it's not like 6 total sets, it's 6 working sets of 5 to 8. If you're using 5, like if you are in the 5 to 8 rep range, you're probably using something approximately 70 to 80% of your max. So it's very reasonable to hit that amount of weight for that amount of reps, but you're doing 6 sets of the damn thing, and that's kind of a lot to be asking from a lifter, especially if you're going to be doing the other exercises included here. Now, from the looks of it, and also now that we will get to this, but also looking at it, he has dumbbell overhead press, because I just wanted to kind of check the other pressing movements. He has close grip bench at the end, 6 to 10 reps, and I'm not adverse to kind of putting another bench press variation there, but me personally, okay, so this is my personal thing. If there was a distinction between these 6 sets, where 3 of them are like, let's say, warm-up sets, and then the last 3 are the actual working sets that you're putting progression on for the 5 to 8 rep range, then that would be totally different. And then if you were to follow that up with the close grip bench, because my big issue here, let's see, so let me adjust that there. So my big issue here is the fact that you're starting out you're kind of sandwiching your workout with a bench press followed by the close grip bench press. Now, usually, like, so because I come from a strength background, because I come from, and because I take a lot of cues and like I've learned a lot from many people who were inspired by Westside Barbell and other forms of concurrent periodization, what I would personally do is I would do the close grip bench press after the bench press. For one, it tightens up your workout without cutting it off. You're able to, like, I get the mentality that, oh, because you're separating the regular bench from the close grip bench, you're now letting your triceps recover. So when you go into a more tricep focused movement, it's going to be all good and you're going to be able to work hard at it again. But the thing that has to be kept in mind is if you look at everything else, it's pretty high volume. Now I know he says that, like, it's right there. It's a high volume program, and there's nothing wrong with high volume programs. But when you do run a high volume program, you're not only running up against physical fatigue, you're running up against mental fatigue. So that's going to be an issue there. So me personally, and like, let's see, so this is 31 total sets. That is super high volume. So usually when it comes to higher volume programs, like, yes, it's somewhat lower frequency because you're only training upper body twice and lower body twice, so 4 days out of the week. So argument can be made there, and intensity is probably not all that high here, so that's a plus. And it's as far as programming goes, but I would still personally cut the volume on these 2 movements a little bit, but keep them. But I would do them one after the other. Another reason being is just practicality. You are going to do a barbell bench press, and then you are going to do a whole other workout and pray to God that by the time that you're right about to get out of the gym, so at this point, this is the last workout of the day, you've done all of this, and you're probably kind of tired, and you're gonna hope to God that there is an available bench press open so that you can do this movement. Good luck. If you're training, at home and that's not an issue, sure, who cares? Like, you're training at home, you don't have to worry about that. So that critique is kind of thrown out the window. But let's say you do train at a commercial public gym, and now you have to kind of run up against that where you're thinking to yourself, God damn it, I'm tired. I want to go home. I've been working out for the past 2 hours, and I still have close grip bench to do, but there's no bench press open. What are you going to do? Now, some people are not going to have an issue with this. If consistency is not an issue, if this type of thing is not an issue, then who cares? You can get that done. But for most people who have other things that they need to do during their day and might not have all the time in the world to train, this can become a detriment. Now, another thing that he did mention in the video while making this program is that if you were to stick strictly with the template of the upper lower, meaning on upper days you do exclusively upper body movements, and on lower days you do exclusively lower body movements, you are going to have upper days that are significantly longer because there's way more muscles in the upper body than what you can hit with lower body exercises. The squats, deadlifts, and some accessories really hit the lower body well, but there's not as much need because, for example, squats will train your glutes, quads, posterior chain, just as not as much, but they'll help develop your hamstrings and shit as well, even though they're not the main mover. And then when you complete that with the deadlift, where the quads are involved, but the hamstrings kind of like dominate the movement, those two kind of slap on a shit ton of size in the lower body, and there's not really much else you need to do beyond that. The upper body is not that, is not like that at all, because if I were to just kind of list the exercises of the upper body that I think are really good, you'll run into the bench press, the overhead press, dips, chin-ups, lat pull down, cable row, barbell row, shrugs, lateral raises, overhead press. I don't know if I said that. And face pulls, because it's 2021 and everyone loves face pulls, rear delt flies, chest flies. Like, there's a shit ton more exercises that you are inclined or would want to do on an upper body day that makes it difficult to stick to a strict upper lower. If you were to do that, you're going to run into some issues, and he does mention that as a weakness of the template. But that's a pretty easy fix. For one, on lower body days, I would put biceps there. For upper body days, I would put triceps, because the triceps are already warmed up. It's very easy to go into that. And then on the lower body day, how hard is it to do, let's say, lunges and then curls, or leg press and then curls, or Romanian deadlift and then curls? It's not that hard at all. So that's one adjustment I would make there. But generally speaking, I know it's a high volume program, but the thing is, like, for the purpose of hypertrophy, it's fine, because, like, you know, there is a dose response relationship with volume and hypertrophy. But even then, I just think it's kind of weird how it's disproportionate with the volume distribution, especially with the pulls. So if you look at the pressing, right? You have 5 sets of pressing here, 3 sets of pressing here, so that's 8. And then 14. So 14 total sets of pressing. So there's no direct tricep work. So because, well, if you include the bench press in that, then sure. But it's still a compound movement. So shoulders are involved, chest is involved. It's not completely isolating the tricep. But so it's 14 sets of pressing followed by 6 sets of pulling. So there's going to be a clear cut, imbalance just between the development of the pushing muscles versus the pulling muscles, and that's not something I really like. Me personally, I always prefer an overdeveloped back than otherwise, and especially because back and bicep training, it's usually something that, like, I made a video talking about high frequency back training. You can easily do high frequency back training, and if your biceps feel recovered, why not do more biceps? But that's it for this day. Yeah, move the close grip bench press right after the bench press. Use it as a supplemental movement for the bench press. Do 3 sets of 5 to 8, and then everything else is just kind of like warm-up sets before that, because warm-up sets do affect tonnage to a certain extent, and like 6 sets is a lot. Like, if you do want to go up to 6 sets, what I would much rather see is phases over time, where you start fairly low volume and then you volumize over time. So let's say you start out with 3 sets and you build, or you start out with 4 sets and you build to 6. I would much rather see something like that rather than just going straight into it with 6 sets of 5 to 8, because that is pretty high volume. I know, like, it's like, oh, but 6 sets of 5 is only 30 reps. That's the same as a 3 by 10. Okay, why not just do a 3 by 10 and build up to 6 by 5? Because now with 6 by 5, you're lifting more weight. Or 6 by 8 is 48 total reps. That's pretty high fucking volume. So I know that's the purpose of the program, but at the same time, I would much rather see that be something that you build up to over time. One of the things that progressive overload is not just, actually adding more weight, it's adding volume as well. And volume, or tonnage, is going to be increased by sets, reps, and weight. So why not kind of build in more progression into the program and start out with something like 4 sets here, build up to 6, and then keep this constant, or I would keep one of these pull movements equal to one of the push exercises, in my opinion, but that's just me, and then go from there. But that'll be it for upper 1. Let's get into lower 1. So with lower 1, you start out with 5 sets of 5 to 8 reps. So high volume program, nothing too horrendous about that. Let's see. Romanian deadlift, 3 sets of 6 to 10. I do like following the squat with a Romanian deadlift, but I am not really sold on the idea of doing only 3 sets of it. When following this, you're going to be doing 6 sets of 8 to 12 reps on the leg press. Like, it's like, I get it, everyone wants bigger quads, but for the longevity of the lower body, I think hamstring exercises should have a priority. And let's see, so you have 26 working sets there, 26 working sets here, but Like, I feel like leg curls are something that you can throw in on both days and it'll be fine. Because let's see, there's here it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 exercises. Here it's 7 exercises here, 6 exercises here. Just put leg curls on both days. Like, that's one thing I would do personally, just because you're gonna run into the issue where this is just a very quad dominant day, and you know, everyone want, like, if you want bigger quads, sure, but generally speaking, what I find for to be most useful is, like, especially because the hamstring actually adds the most amount of size to your leg, but you know, when you train the quads, it gives that definition that most people like, so that's cool. But even then, I would much rather see something like 5 sets of 5 to 8 on squat, 4 sets of maybe 6 to 10, or yeah, 4 sets of 6 to 10, 3 sets of 8 to 12, 3 sets of 8 to 12, and then like you can do calves supersetted with these two. Like, if these two exercises, the leg press and the lunges, were both done just with 3 sets, you can do 6 sets of calf raises, because on the leg press you can do calf raises. When you're done with your lunges with the dumbbells in your hand, you can do standing calf raises with the dumbbells in your hand, and you go from there. That, in my opinion, would be a much better lower body day. Upper 2. So one thing that I'm trying to do with this program, just to kind of interject for a quick second, is I'm trying to review it from the perspective of hypertrophy. So in that sense, like, I know he mentioned it as a weakness to kind of be very strict with the upper lower template, and I agree. For hypertrophy, it's not the best to be super strict with any template. Push pull leg, like, even on a push pull leg, I would do some type of rear delt work on a push day just to keep the shoulders healthy. With a full body, you might notice that some muscles are taken out of a specific day, just so that way you can promote a little bit more recovery, because you're going to hit it harder the next day or the next time. So these are adjustments that should be made when programming. So he mentioned it as a weakness of the template, but why make a weakness of the template a weakness of the program as well? I think people are very open and smart enough to kind of make those adjustments and be more than happy to do so. So incline dumbbell bench press, barbell overhead press. So one change that I would make, I usually prefer starting out with a barbell movement rather than a dumbbell movement. Like, I understand why, because you, like, you know, not overuse, and like, generally speaking, like, most people are bench press centric when it comes to development of upper body muscles, especially the pressing muscles. And I love the incline dumbbell bench press, but the issue with it is 5 to 8 is the intensity rep range here, compared to 8 to 12, meaning this is where you are going to be the most fatigued. This is where you're going to be pushing the most progression. This is going to be where you're pushing the most amount of weight. You would want to do this when you're the most fresh, in my opinion. And then the barbell overhead press, honestly, I have never really felt to be something that limits my ability to do a bench press variation, quite simply. So I did this in one of my programs for quite a while. I did this thing where I would build up to a top set of 10 with the overhead press, and I would get to about 185 for 10, or maybe no, I did 185 for, like, how much did I do 185 for? I totally forget. But anyway, I know I hit it for reps. But I either did 6 to 10 reps somewhere there. I'll look up in my tracker or my workout log, like, what I did. But I would work up to a 6 to 10 rep max for the barbell overhead press. Then, without dropping the weight, I would bring the J hooks down, put an incline bench there, and then go straight into incline barbell bench pressing. And then I would go to up to a 5 rep max there, usually around 225, or I would hit 225 on there because it's my volume day and I don't go above 225 on volume days, at least in my old program. And then I would set it to a flat bench, and I would still be able to rep out 225 for 15 plus reps. So I would get a range of 15 to 18 reps, even after all that pressing, whether that be from the barbell overhead press to the barbell incline bench to the flat barbell bench. Now, I might be an outlier. And also it might be a result of just years of training. But even then, it's just to kind of illustrate the point that despite all the barbell overhead press work, it did not affect me benching. So I would much rather that you put this earlier into the program and then follow it up with the incline dumbbell bench. That would be much better. Barbell row, 3 sets of 8 to 12. I think that's great. I think the barbell row definitely benefits much better from volume than it does from intensity. And then lat pull down, 3 sets of 12 to 15. That's also really good. Well, me personally, one thing I would do is he's very much like he wants to do high volume, but for something like a lat pull down, me personally, okay, I would much rather do like 5 sets of 6 to 10 because let's see, 5 sets of 6 to 10, that's 30 reps to uh, 50 reps. I don't know why that took me so long to calculate, but here it's 36 reps to 45. So very similar rep ranges, or like rep range as far as like total reps go for the lat pull down. But at least on one, you kind of keep fatigue a bit lower, or you can even push a little bit more intensity depending on you. Cable ladder raises, 6 sets of 10 to 15. I get it. Like you want a lot of side delt work, and like that's fine. Dumbbell curl, 5 sets of 10 to 15. Skull crushers, 5 sets of 8 to 12. So these two, superset them. Like this one, like there's not much you can do there. But yeah, so that's kind of what you run into on the upper body day too. So this is another reason why I would recommend you move dumbbell work over onto these days, just because if you were to move like bicep work on the lower body days, the volume across each training day would actually become a bit more equal and a bit more evenly distributed, and you can spend less time in the gym but still get everything done in the week, and then that's a lot better in my opinion. So let's go to lower body too. You start out with deadlift, 3 sets of 5, not bad. Front squat, 5 sets of 6 to 10. Now the front squat is an interesting exercise because it's something that I don't feel is like 100% necessary for bodybuilders, just because the technical ceiling for this movement can be fairly high. It kind of to get the most out of it, in my opinion, you want to be able to hold a front rack position, which some people just might not care for or want to do or spend or invest the time to actually get into a good front rack. So safety squat bar, hack squats, these are things that you can replace this movement with. Lunges, leg extension, leg curl, just superset the two. Thankfully, they are 3 sets each, 10 to 15, so you can just superset the two. Usually they're right next to each other. Machine calf raise, like what can you do there? One thing I would do personally is, so it's a tricep. I think I didn't watch the whole video unfortunately, but he'll probably explain that in his full video. But if I had to assume, it's like 3 exercises just done right after another. Here, what I would do personally is I would superset abs and calves, just that way, especially since it's a tricep, so you can divide up the ab work a bit better and then superset it with calves, and you'll be fine. So overall, this program isn't horrible. It's just, the thing is, with a low frequency, high volume program, one of the things that will naturally occur as a result is longer training days. And for some people, that might be good. For some people, that might be feasible. For some people, they might actually enjoy that. They have the energy, they have the mental capacity for it. Me personally, part of the reason why I kind of prefer shorter training days is just mostly because of my military background. From 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., I was owned by the military essentially. And then I have to repeat that process Monday through Friday. And generally that means if I'm trying to get a good amount of sleep, eat well and all these other things, and have some time to actually relax at the end of the day, spending 2 hours in the gym, and especially when you include things like the commute, the getting ready, the showering afterwards, and the eating afterwards, it becomes a whole big thing. And what ends up happening usually is, and if I have to do things like other chores and responsibilities and whatnot, what ends up happening is, if I have a 2-hour workout, it's now a 3-hour ordeal, just because of the amount of time it took me to get ready, to commute, come back, shower, eat, and then there's other things I need to do at the end of the night, and then I also want to be able to kind of rest and relax before I go to bed. It becomes hard to do that. Now, if you don't have those time constraints, then who cares? But these time constraints aren't exclusive to people in the military. Any working professional will probably deal with something like this, and that's why I think it's worthwhile to keep that in mind. Now, also 6 sets of 5 to 8, like, yeah, it'll work, especially if you actually do recover from it and whatnot. But I think it steps into the realm of just being a bit too much, especially when you can do something like push the intensity a bit higher, cut a little bit down on volume, so that way you're working a bit closer to failure, because that's known to be as effective for muscle hypertrophy than just higher volumes, or as effective as higher volumes, generally speaking. So that's a critique there. But overall, this is a good program. It's just I would make some adjustments, but if you can follow with this program, if you like training with higher volumes and all that, then I think it's okay. I would give it a C just because I don't like the imbalance of pull to push work. Like I feel like back work is definitely going to suffer on a program like this. But other than that, like those are my main gripes. Like let's see. So it says here that there's 12 sets of chest work and 12 sets of back work, but I don't really buy into that. Like I can, let's see. So bench press and close grip bench, like he's counting that as triceps, but the chest is involved there. You know, you can't get away from that. Incline dumbbell bench, and that's probably where the 12 is coming from for chest. The overhead press, it does help build up the clavicular head of the chest. So you could argue that there's some chest volume being there too, but yeah, like, huh? I'm still thinking that it's just not enough in my opinion. Like I think the back deserves a bit more volume than it's currently getting. I think back work is very important, and it's a very resilient muscle too, especially when there's so many muscles there. So like rear delts, traps, like yes, to an extent these muscles will build it up, but I just think it deserves a bit more work than it's getting currently in this program as written. Leg work, it seems kind of weird to me that there's only a 5 set difference across leg work. Like I feel like it could be reduced a bit so that way you get a bit more recovery. But overall, it's not horrible, but not my favorite implementation of the upper lower in my opinion. But yeah, it's a C. It's a C grade, and an argument could be made for a higher grade, maybe even a B. But generally speaking, it's not how I would do an upper lower. So if you were to do an upper lower, and when I say that's not how I would do an upper lower, that means if I'm trying to get strength and size out of a program, this is not how I would do an upper lower. But other than that, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Cross the King, and I'll see you next time. Peace.